On this week's Vaticano, take a look at what Franciscans are doing to evangelize in Rome, and a popular book helps women understand their role as wives. The bookshop for German-speaking pilgrims opens in Rome, and we find out why Saint John Paul II is really the Pope of the family. All this, plus take a look at a few aspects of the Inquisition and an exhibition in Rome dedicated to the 450th anniversary of Michelangelo's death, coming up on Vaticano. Each summer, Romans set up little stands with shops, bars, restaurants, and ice cream stands along the Tevere River. It's known as the Lungo il Tevere and runs only in the evenings from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. This time, there's a special newsstand which stands out, and it's run by the Franciscans.
We are here at the docks of the Tevere River. Why are we here? The people are constantly telling us, you, Franciscan, why are you here in a secular place where we find a stand that talks about the church, about evangelizing, about missionaries? And we immediately reply that Pope Francis has sent us. Because we know that lately the Pope has been insisting a lot on the fact that he wants a missionary church. Furthermore, he dreams that the church makes missionary choices in an environment where everyone works and lives. We asked the organizer if we could have a stand. They even gave it to us for free. And we're free because we've been sent by the Pope. He talks about a church that is going out, where people live in the times and in their own space. I think that being here on vacation, the people and tourists that walk by want to value their own free time. We as Franciscans give them a hand. That's why it's very beautiful to see people who stop at the stand to talk to us. And as you see, we are wearing our Franciscan habits. So this is really a mission. It's not going out to a faraway land to speak to those who have never heard of the gospel. Right here, this is the missionary land, Italy, Spain, Holland. And we have welcomed this invitation that the Pope has given us to go out to the existential peripheries of the contemporary world. I think that this is an optimal opportunity for us to be able to spread the gospel through this contact and dialogue that we have with the people that walk by.
The stands down the Tiber River are usually open throughout the months of July and August. Each Sunday, they're also celebrating Mass under one of the bridges along the river and then serving food to the poor of the area. All this with the help of 8 parish priests of the neighborhood. Father Paolo says many young people have even approached them to receive confession.
The goal is a presence of witness, nothing else. We don't sell anything. It isn't an exposition of missionary objects. It's just about being among the people, so we prefer personal contact and dialogue more than, of course, sometimes some people offer to join a mission because we distribute a pamphlet with all the missionary activities.
After their 90 days are up of missionary work at the Tiber River, they'll meet with Pope Francis. They will give him a collection of thoughts written by the people who have passed by on what missionary work means personally to them. Have you ever wondered what women's role in marriage is? This Italian author, journalist, and mother of 4 released a book explaining just that, and it's becoming quite popular too. It's a collection of letters to her friends where she explains how happy a wife can be if she would just be a little more submissive, but not in the way you think.
I think that submission is a word very often misunderstood. I think that submission is the talent of women. We are called to take care, to give life, to give space, to take care of the ones who are in charge of us. We are able to make people live, not just our children, but all the people we have around us. The women have the genius of relation, wrote John Paul II, who is saint, in the Mulieris Dignitatem. And he also wrote that God gives the humanity to women. He gave us the power to make humanity live and grow, and so I think it's a very good thing, a very good way to be. It's not like being a doormat, being under in a bad way. It's being under like a column that sustains. So I think it's a very good thing to be for a woman.
She believes most marital problems exist because men and women speak different languages. Men are quite simple, and women tend to be more complicated. In that sense, she says, they're not equal.
We have to continually remember that we are different, and it's not an error, a mistake of God. It's actually the way we can work together, and we can be better together. We can change one another, welcoming our differences. I think it's the main mistake, because today we both work, we both take care of children, we both take care of the house, which is a thing I don't like so much. I think we have to separate, to do different things. The mother has to be the one who gives care, and the father has to be the drive of the family. We have to separate, and because we now men and women try to be together in all the fields, I think they fight. That's the reason they fight. Divorce is growing because we live in a culture that exalts the importance of feelings, of emotions, and in a long time relation, you will surely have some hard moments, some moments in which your emotions will not completely be gratifying, happy. Not during maybe 50 years. You have to have the patience to be like a cathedral. A marriage is like a cathedral. You have to build with patience and work, and maybe sometimes it's also annoying. Sometimes it's hard. You cry and you laugh and you get bored, but it's normal when you build something that will last 1,000 years, because we believe in eternal life.
Costanza has also written a male version of her book called Sposala e muori per lei, or Marry Her and Die for Her. It will be translated in September into English.
Women tend to control, to be manipulating, but and this is our error. But the error of men is to be selfish, to think about themselves, to always try to take something apart, to have a space, a private space, which is maybe a cave, maybe an iPad. It's the same, somewhere to go away from the family. And men have to learn to be together with the family. But I don't give advices to men, because I am a woman and I speak a different language.
Her aim through her books is to translate the message of the Church to non-believers. She's currently working on another book too, Obedience is Better. In it, she says obedience is a way of getting healed, even from minor problems in life. There is religious literature in every corner in Rome, but most of it is unfortunately in Italian. Luckily, though, now there's also something for German-speaking pilgrims in Rome. A new bookshop called the Heda Bookshop, on the other side of the Tiber, opposite Castel Sant'Angelo, and a few steps from the Vatican, is the bookshop. In fact, it's within the German Pilgrim Center.
Wir haben quasi mit der Heiligsprechung der beiden Päpste, Johannes Paul II.
We opened this bookstore around the time of the canonizations of John Paul II and John XXIII. We also had a beautiful inauguration ceremony. The idea behind it was to have something special to offer pilgrims, in addition to what we already give them at the Pilgrim Center. Here they have the possibility to obtain German language literature, partly on theology, religion, and spirituality, as well as some nice pocketbooks, and of course our magazines.
For German speakers who are looking for a guide to Rome, a holiday read, or simply a gift, this is the place. Also, the popes have their own table.
Hier hinter mir sehen Sie unsere große Papsttafel sozusagen.
Here behind me, you see our great Pope table. We have all the popes represented, from John Paul II and John the 23rd, of course. But also our emeritus Pope Benedict XVI is represented, and of course Pope Francis too. There is a large area of theological topics behind me on a big shelf. All are encyclopedias and periodicals. There is also something for the everyday tourist. We often get people who come in looking for a souvenir. There are lots of beautiful pocketbooks about life in Rome.
Auch einfach über das Leben in Rom, nette Anekdoten dazu.
A table reserved for pilgrims has the very popular Francis Way, or Via Francigena.
Wir haben natürlich auch einen Pilgertisch. Das bedeutet,
We also have, of course, a pilgrim table. We have some pilgrims who travel by foot or bicycle from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, who travel thousands of miles, partly along the Via Francigena, which is an ancient pilgrim route. The best known part is from Assisi to Rome. So we have a Francis Way guide that is written by two authors who themselves have traveled the path, and many expressions and impressions are portrayed. The special thing is that this path is not as well known or as popular as the Way of St. James, for example.
Der Weg ist noch nicht so bekannt und noch nicht so populär wie Santiago de Compostela zum Beispiel.
John Paul II is a saint. During his pontificate, he especially cared about the topic of marriage and the family, how one could understand it by means of his famous theology of the body. During his canonization, Pope Francis talked about this topic and confirmed the fact that his predecessor's papacy will direct the synod.
Die Familie ist ein besonderes Anliegen für die Kirche und auch immer gewesen.
The family is of particular concern for the Church and always has been. However, one also knows that it is not easy nowadays to live with family. Therefore, we now have a synod, first an extraordinary synod, then next year in 2015, an ordinary synod. In order to deal with this issue and to go deeper into the topic, it's about how you can help families live the faith in today's world and how you can help them give witness. After all, the family is the nucleus, not only of society, but also, as John Paul II once said, the home of the Church. There, the faith is lived and passed on, together with the values that are necessary for later in life, which are taught to children and youth.
Notwendig sind, den Kindern, den jungen Menschen beigebracht.
The topics of marriage and family were already before the synod heavily debated, for example, during the consistory of cardinals. But will there be a change on the teaching of the Church?
Das wird sich zeigen in der Synode. Papst Franziskus hat
This will be evident in the synod. Pope Francis tried to open different doors, but he has also defined a certain way which has often been considered wise. For example, during the canonization, he called St. John Paul II the Pope of the family. That is quite a sign. He said that John Paul II will assist the synod from heaven, and apparently not only from heaven, but also through his theology. The direction that it will take will be that of the gospel. The gospel is the guiding principle upon which one must rely, as there are different statements in the Bible. For example, for the family, there was already something at the very beginning of Genesis. At Genesis 1:27, male and female, he created them. That is already a clear requirement. In relation to the family, we see the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 19, the indissolubility of marriage, and so on. The second big part is the tradition of the Church. And also, with regard to that, one must say that the magisterium of the Church has not remained inactive. There has already been a synod on the family in 1981. That synod released a post-synodal letter which is known under the title Familiaris Consortio. In this letter, we take a look on the then current problems, and these are still relevant because man does not change much. Of course, circumstances change, and also the ones in which families live nowadays.
Ändern sich die Umstände, auch gerade in denen die Familien heute leben.
Another major issue of society nowadays is the gender theory. Unfortunately, it also carries risks for the Christian family. The Synod can give aid to the family and assist it with its challenges.
Gender ist eine Neudefinierung oder versucht den Menschen.
There are some today who are trying to redefine what gender is. They are trying to define man according to what they call his social gender. By that they mean that what we are is no longer according to the nature of people, but instead what we choose in society, what we ourselves can choose. By that sort of definition, the classic family portrait and what constitutes a family crumbles. The whole thing makes it even harder to promote the family and to encourage young parents to make their contribution to society. I think that right now the family needs that it not be left alone and that one approach them. In that way, the families realize that they are not alone, that we are supported, that the church is there and supports us in all possible ways. And if this sign can be transmitted, even through the Synod, then that would be a very happy effect, a Francis effect, which would be a very nice impact on the family.
Effekt, dann auch Franziskus-Effekt. Und ich denke, der würde sich dann auch...
In the heart of Rome, right next to the Pantheon, is the Church of the Dominicans, Santa Maria sopra Minerva. In the transepts of its courtyard, images from Saint Dominic are also images of Dominican martyrs. But they are not common martyrs, they're martyred inquisitors. The rector of the church today made extensive research of the topic of the Inquisition and tells us some fascinating characteristics.
Il fine dell'Inquisizione era di rendere.
The goal of the Inquisition was to free society from heresy, which sometimes, unfortunately, meant to free from heretics as well. We have to understand that this happened in a historic situation, which is very different to the one of today. The state itself was Christian, which meant that it was very important to defend Christianity and safeguard it from attacks to assure the inner health of the subject of the realm. Writings from Charlemagne attest to this. An heresy was therefore dangerous for society, and an attack of it.
So why does the Inquisition have a bad name today?
Because of different reasons. On the one side, it has to be said that it's made to look worse than it actually was. On the other side, today it's hard to understand well the motives of the time. It seems to have gone against liberty, against freedom of speech, and liberty on conscience. One has to look closely here, since freedom of thought doesn't mean that one can think and specially teach whatever he thinks and make propaganda for anything he wants. I cannot proclaim in public that it's good to steal and call for stealing. At the same time, already St. Paul explained that those has to be stopped who propagate false doctrines. The Inquisition also occupied itself with that. The medieval Inquisition was originally geared toward Christians who made a profession of the Christian faith. They promised to be faithful to their faith. So they needed to be reminded of what they had promised. The Inquisition did not, for example, focus on the Jews, which in France were the only non-Christians, or the Muslims, which existed in some countries. They could practice their own religion, as long as they didn't make propaganda for it.
Si lasciava che potessero praticare la loro religione, a patto però di non fare propaganda.
The main focus of the Inquisition was to safeguard the state order. Heresy was a threat to the order of society in general.
A seguito, se si vuole, lo sviluppo del diritto.
The Inquisition went along with the development of law. The 12th and then the 13th century was an era in which the Roman law was rediscovered. It was reapplied also to the inquisitional procedures. That was the reason also for the condemnation to death, since the crime of high treason, who was against the emperor or the king, was punished by the death. The crime against God had to be punished with the same sentence, since it was seen as treason against God. In the Middle Ages, the idea of regularity was of utmost importance. This idea meant that one could, for example, not join the sacred orders, the priesthood or the episcopate, if he did something that was not right, even if it was not a sin. That was the reason why a priest couldn't become a soldier. This law remained until 1983. This was closely linked to the idea that they had to be good and spread the good. So, therefore, the inquisitors applied torture in their trials. Studies have been made, and this was also something relatively rare. No, condemnation to death was not the most common sentence. The handing over to the secular powers, which meant a death sentence, was rare. I made a research on Bernardo Gui, who was the bad inquisitor of Umberto Eco in The Name of the Rose. He spoke about 1,000 sentences. Only 40 of those were condemned to death, so about 4%. So, they existed, but the handing over to the secular powers was not seen as a way to ease their conscience.
Non è che il consegnare al braccio secolare era per loro il modo di mettersi la coscienza in pace.
Michelangelo Buonarotti, the great master of Italian Renaissance sculpture and architecture, here in exhibition in Rome, dedicated to the 450th anniversary of his death. There are also some pieces that have never been before shown to the public. There are over 150 of his statues, paintings, manuscripts, and drawings.
The choice of having the exhibition here is due to the fact that this is the last architectural building of the great Florentine artist himself. Himself felt at home here, be it for the commission that he received from Pope Paul III, be it since he had here all of his friends of his last years. The universality of Michelangelo lied in the fact that he could connect opposites. He was able to assume the entire heritage he had received from antiquity, and at the same time transform it according to his own vision, which was a very personal trait. His own vision of the world changed over time also, obviously, during his long life. During his life, he encountered a lot of other artists who helped him shape his skills and his ethics, especially Vittoria Colonna, who was a woman, an art lover, and she influenced Michelangelo a lot about redemption, the relation of the light of God and the darkness of the sin. The works comprise about 150 pieces, about 70 of which are originals from Michelangelo, and then there are obviously comparable artworks and works by contemporaries. Most of them come from Florentine museums, Bargello, Casa Buonarotti, and obviously the Uffizi museums and the Accademia Gallery, but also from other places around Italy, Venice, Turin, and also from English museums, like the British Museum.
Nutrito gruppo di disegni dai musei vaticani e da altri luoghi.
Countless beauties of this universal genius of the 15th century, some stick out as unique.
In realtà sono tante e diciamo forse le più interessanti e le più importanti sono
In reality, there are lots of interesting pieces here. The most important are in this room. Obviously, the Madonna of the Stairs, a most extraordinary relief that the artist Michelangelo made with 15 years of age. It comprises and shows already all elements that make him an exceptional artist: perspective, particular characteristic of the relief itself, and I could say that this work already shows his interest in the art of sculpture. For the first time we have the bust of Brutus in exhibition, which is shown next to two other busts, one of the Roman Emperor Caracalla, who has the same angel of his head, and the so-called Capitoline Brutus, a fantastic bronze bust that represents the Brutus, assassin of Tarquin the Tyrant.
Che rappresenta il Bruto, diciamo, uccisore di Tarquinio.
A rare statue is also on display, which was never finished by Michelangelo.
E poi c'è naturalmente il Cristo Redentore, il Cristo in trionfo.
Then we have Christ the Redeemer, Christ in Triumph, which is a work that was just attributed to Michelangelo a few years ago. It's, according to the book of Vasari, a work that was abandoned by Michelangelo because of a veining in the marble in the face. This beauty flaw made it impossible for the artist to complete the work. It was most likely completed by another artist related to Bernini. That's why we put the statue in front of the grand statue of Pope Urban VIII, which was made by Bernini.
Davanti alla statua di Urbano VIII realizzata da Bernini.